Arts and the New Jersey State Council, the Arts Department of State, and the New Jersey Historical Commission, Department of State. Their support helps make our series possible. Now, before I go any further, could I ask you all to be sure to silence your cell phones, myself included. You know, when we acquired Ridgewood Academy in 2019, we determined that we needed not just to restore the building, but to restore its purpose, which was to be an educational institution. And so we have been presenting programs that are designed to educate and enlighten our community, often on subjects about which we may not know a lot. And today's program is no exception. We are most privileged and blessed to have Robert Green, not only as vice president of our board, but also as a presenter and researcher who has been looking into these stories. His family has deep roots in Mullica Hill, and in the process of looking into that history, has unearthed other stories that should be told and should be better known. And so I would ask you to join me in welcoming Robert Green to the podium to share another of these stories.
Good afternoon to everyone. Today we're going to learn about a person that has done a lot of inventions and has benefited a lot of people, but we know very little about. Her name is Bessie Blount Griffin. She's an inventor, author, mother, and what have you. We're going to start out with the agenda. I'm not sure where all these marks came from, but this is the agenda we'll have this afternoon. First, we're going to have the introduction. We've had the welcome. We're going to talk about her early life, her education, some of the devices she's invented, the honors and awards she has, the death, her death, and the legacy. Now, we find that she was born November the 24th, 1914, and she died on December the 30th, 2009. What was her early life? Her name was Bessie Virginia Blount. She was born, as we stated earlier, on November 24th, 1914, in rural Virginia. Her father was a George Woodard, and her mother was a Mary Elizabeth Griffin. She later took on her grandmother's name, and the name is Blount. So whenever you hear her referred to, you'll hear her referred to as Bessie Blount. She attended a one-room segregated school called Diggs Chapel Elementary School. The reason it was called Diggs Chapel because it was actually school part of the time, and the rest of the time it was a church. Diggs Chapel Elementary School was in Chesapeake, Virginia. It was built after the Civil War by the black community to educate children of former slaves, similar to what High Street School did in Mullica Hill area. The school didn't have textbooks, but later some of the white schools would donate textbooks to them after they had finished using them. She was born, like most of us, left-handed. Well, a few of us. My brother was left-handed and my son was left-handed. But her teacher, Mrs. Carrie Nemo, took a ruler. I don't know how many people were around that know about the time teachers would take rulers and smack you on the hand if you did something you weren't supposed to do. Well, Bessie got slapped on the hand because everything she was doing with her left hand. And it was decided that you would do everything, you would write and do everything with your right hand. Bessie undertook the warning by holding a pencil with her teeth and also with her feet. In other words, if you won't let me use my left hand to do it, I'll put a pencil in my mouth and learn how to write, and I'll take my toes and I'll learn how to write. That came very helpful for her later in life, because when she was a physical therapist during World War II, which we'll go over in a little while, there were a number of people who came back from the war without arms, so they had to use their legs to do whatever. And if they had to be fed, we'll find out how she helped them to be able to eat. Later in life, she was forced to stop her education at 6th grade. So she went to Diggs Chapel for the first 6 years of her life, well, 6th grade of her life. And then she was taken out of school, and they actually moved from Virginia to New Jersey. In Newark, New Jersey, she studied to be a nurse at the community college. She also went to study at the Panzer, P-A-N-Z-E-R College, physical education. It's now called Montclair State. And when she finished the courses there, she became a certified physical therapist. One thing I probably skipped over was she left Virginia with grade 6. But when she got to New Jersey, she continued her education, got her GED and other sufficient courses so she could go to college. So that's how she ended up going to school. After finishing her training at the college, she began work as a physical therapist at the Bronx Hospital in New York. A lot of her patients, as we have stated, had been wounded during World War II. Their injuries in some cases had prevented them performing basic tasks like reading, writing, eating, and even clothing yourself. But such work was not only physical rehabilitation, its goal was to help the veterans regain their independence and sense of control over their life. Her personal life, she was married to a Thomas Griffin in 1951, and they had one child. The one child's name was Philip. So this is the family that moved from Virginia up to New Jersey and basically stayed in New Jersey. Although when she was working for the hospital at times, she would go over to New York and work and still come back to New Jersey. She donated her services to the Vineland, New Jersey NAACP, Camden County College, Camden Community College, and Creative Endowment. And this is one of the pictures, I'm not sure if you can read it. It was taken when she was working with some of the students in Vineland. And the names of the students, now this was about 25 years ago. I haven't been able to locate those two people because I'm sure they're grown now. So she was a multifaceted person. Bessie was a special advocate for children, for veterans, animals, and human rights. At this time, we'll have a brief video showcasing some of her life and times. Having a few technical difficulties here. It keeps moving on me. It's not taking it.
Let's cut to the chase.
This is the one, right? Do you want to skip forward to about that 2-minute mark where he starts?
Yeah.
Leave a link in the description if you want to buy it. I'll also leave a link. And more than likely, I'll get some kind of fee from that if you buy it from one of my affiliates, just to let you know. Okay, she was born in
That's it.
Virginia, which is now Chesapeake. There was a small community in Princess Anne County. Betsy Blount Griffin attended Diggs Elementary School in Hickory, Virginia, an educational facility built after the Civil War for the opportunity of educational advancement for African American children. Now, while she was attending this school, her teacher wrapped her on the hands every time she wrote with her left hand. Now, this happened to me even in the 70s, some 50 odd years later from this. I went to Catholic school.
Now, this happened to me even in the 70s, some 50 odd years later from this. I went to Catholic school, and they would hit me on the hand if I did something out of the ordinary, like writing with my left hand. They always wanted me to write with my right, and that's why I'm ambidextrous. And that's the same thing that happened to Bessie Blount Griffin. But she didn't take it just there. She went further and challenged herself, and she started teaching herself how to write with her mouth. She extended that to both feet, left and right. She could write just as fluent with all of her limbs and her mouth. An amazing thing. Now, she did this just for her own enlightenment, but later in her life, that was utilized to do some of the amazing things in her career that you wouldn't even guess. No one would even fathom that this is something that would have happened. So let's get to her life a little bit more. She went to 6th grade in an elementary school. That's as far as education would go for black people at that time in Virginia. So her family moved to New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey. And that's where she went on to further her education, but she self-educated. It wasn't like she went to a school. And then she got her GED. And then after that, she went to nursing school. So she studied nursing at the Community Kinney Memorial Hospital in Newark. So another amazing thing is that the school that she went to was Kinney, Kenney. And the head person of that was a Dr. Joseph A. Kinney. Also an amazing person. That he started this in 1927, and it was just a medical facility. And by 1935, it was a community hospital. We're going to cover Dr. Joseph A. Kinney later on, but she learned nursing there. After obtaining her nursing degree, she continued her education in Panzer College, now called Montclair State University, and Union County Junior College. And that's called Union County College now, where she obtained certification in physical therapy. Now, physical therapy was relatively new. She was one of the few African American physical therapists at that time. She blended a certain thing with it. She never just did anything just normal, like just go to work and come home and just do what you're told and taught. No, she went above and beyond. So one of the greatest things that she did was that she found out that her patients, they were losing a little pep in their step. They weren't always happy. They were a little bit depressed. So just like if you ever saw the movie Patch Adams, where Robin Williams plays a doctor who's dealing with, critically ill patients, and he makes them laugh by dressing up as a clown and doing jokes and so forth. Well, in her situation, what she did interpretive dance. If you don't know what that is, check this video out. Now, can you imagine her dancing around in front of her patients after administering whatever kind of physical therapy she had to do to lighten their load, to make them smile and feel just a little bit better? That was an amazing thing to find out, that the kind of heart this woman had and the ability to be able to blend what she loved to do and actually give these people a show of interpretive dance. The smiles, the happiness she must have put on their hearts at the time. It's just an amazing thing to hear. Soon after, World War II created an influx of soldiers in need of physical therapy. These wounded warriors needed to come to the veteran hospital and be able to have therapy. Now, they were losing limbs, whether they had both arms gone, one leg, paralyzed, so on and so forth, right? And she had to perform physical therapy on these wounded warriors. Well, the thing is that she recognized some of the equipment that they were using was inadequate. So Griffin found innovative ways to rehabilitate her patients. In particular, she helped armed amputees compensate by teaching them to use their feet to eat, to write, to give them a piece of their life back. This is where what she learned on her own, what she taught herself as a kid, came into play. If you don't believe things happen for a reason, this lady's life will let you know that. She utilized what she was taught based on admonishment from a teacher that made her believe that she had to do something extra, learn something new. And it opened up her mind, and she used it just for fun, and it turned out being a blessing to multiple wounded warriors out there who needed physical therapy. And not only that, she lifted their spirits and helped them get their dignity back. Because in this situation, she allowed them to be able to start writing again and be able to have some kind of connection, to be able to feed themselves when they had no arms, they can do it with their feet, some kind of connection back to some normalcy. And she didn't have to do this. This is something that came out of her. And we're so proud of this sister for the things that she did and she created. Now, this is just coming from her heart, but we haven't even gone into what she actually created, okay? Now, this black brilliant sister realized that paraplegics, people who couldn't move. Now, these men were mostly men that I've seen videos of, were warriors. They were out there fighting. You know, they were strong and fast and, you know, they were in the military. They were not weak men. And then they come out and literally have no limbs, no way to get around. The depression must have been really thick. And she ended up creating something to give them some more dignity. Not only did she dance for them, not only did she try new techniques, not only did she teach them how to write with their feet. They didn't have arms or legs and they could still move around. She taught them how to write with their mouths. So not only did she bring all of herself to them and give them as much as she could, Bessie Blount Griffin came up with a device that would help paraplegics get their dignity back, how to help them feed themselves. Now, how do you do this? How do you eat? She created what we would call the feeding tube, an electronic self-feeding apparatus for amputees and people who were paralyzed. Now, what this device did, it was a tube that transported individual bites of food to the patient's mouth. All the patient would simply do was bite down on the tube, and then the food would dispense to the mouthpiece from the advanced machine that would dispense the next portion of food into the patient's mouth when prompted. This thing was called a portable receptacle support. That happened in 1951 when she got a patent. The popular song around there was called 60-Minute Man by the Dominoes. Enjoy that as well right now in the background. She came up with that patent on the exact date of April 24th, 1951. She was granted that patent, but it was 3 years after she had filed it in 1948. That same year, she married Thomas Griffin, and they would go on to have a son named Philip. Now, her original name was Bessie Virginia Blount, but when she got married, it was Bessie Blount Griffin. Don't know what happened to the Virginia. The American Veterans Administration declined Blount's invention. This sister did not let that stop her. In 1952, Lordy Miss Cloudy was on the airwaves, and that was by Lloyd Price. Now, Elvis Presley recorded that too, Little Thief. But anyway, recorded that as well. But that was by this brother named Lloyd Price, not Elvis. At that time, the French government purchased the patent rights of her portable receptacle support, and they put it in widespread use in the military hospitals across that country and in some of its colonies. This ingenious apparatus positioned Griffin as one of the earliest inventors in the burgeoning field of physical therapy. One of the first, and the first African American. Now, here's the thing. That was not her only invention. She created something called emesis basin, a device still standard in Belgian hospitals today. Once again, she tried to give this device to America, and they did not want any part of it. In 1953, she was the first black woman to appear on a television show called The Big Idea. The music that was playing back then on the radio was Nat King Cole, Pretend. That was one of the top hits. Now, The Big Idea, I couldn't find any video of it, but they remade that with a guy named Donnie Deutsch a few years ago called The Big Idea. But this happened in 1953. And this exposed her invention that there was a brilliant black sister that created a lot of this stuff. It's just amazing. In 1969, the music that was playing was Sly and the Family Stone. Everyday People. Love that song. Now, this is when she started her second career. Now, she called it a second career. I call it way more than that because the sister started out being a physical therapist. Well, first of all, being a nurse, then going to a physical therapist, then going to being an inventor and creator of different technologies and something like that. And then Griffin began her career in forensics as a chief examiner for the police departments in Norfolk, Virginia. She was the first African-American woman admitted as a student at the Document Division of the Metropolitan Police Forensic Science Laboratory in London, England. For those of y'all who don't know, which I didn't know, now I do, that is Scotland Yard. That happened in 1977 when she got that promotion. And in 1977, The Emotions was on the air singing The Best of My Love. I was 6 years old at the time. She maintained a private practice as a consultant to law enforcement and law firms on legal strategy and procedure until 1983. Now, what was playing in 1983? If y'all don't remember, Dionne Warwick and who? Luther Vandross. If y'all don't remember 1983, some of the hit songs back then, at the time, one of the hit songs that was on the airways in the top 10 or top 100, something like that, was Dionne Warwick and Luther Vandross singing How Many Times Can We Say Goodbye? All right. She also had a brief stint as a journalist. Now, if you don't get, boy, I'm telling you something. This woman was just unbelievable. She started out having an education where she had to stop at 6th grade, got her GED, went from getting her GED, going to nursing school, running into all kinds of amazing black, brilliant people on the way. She made breakthroughs in research in medical graphology. She held high-ranking memberships in numerous respected organizations and was an outspoken advocate of equal rights for the marginalized. She was bestowed several honors in her lifetime, including the New Jersey Joint Legislative Commendation. Blount cultivated a reputation among the inventor community. Among her closest friends was Theodore M. Edison, son of Thomas Alva Edison, with whom she discussed many ideas and projects. She continued to innovate and create. Blount was honored in 1992 by the American Academy of Physical Therapy, an African-American focused physical therapy organization. She also got an award for Virginia Women in History in 2005. Now, it is said that she applied for a job with the FBI, but it was turned down. She then began operating her own business using her forensic training to examine pre-Civil War documents and so-called slave papers. Oh, I wish I could find out more about that. She operated the business until she was 83 years old. These are amazing things this black brilliant sister was able to do. And I feel ashamed that it's 50 years old when I found out. But I'm thankful that I did, right? And hopefully that you know now, it'll help you in your journey in life. That's my gift to you, is that you know this now so that you can do something about it and not only just honor her, but give yourself that opportunity to be just as successful as this brilliant black sister. Because sometimes we don't know things are possible because we don't see it happening with anybody in our nearest community, or we're not capable of being an orator like Martin Luther King, and it's like that's so far off. But we have so many brilliant black brothers and sisters out there, just like yourselves. I truly believe you're just as brilliant. It's just that you don't know it yet. Now, at the age of 95, we lost our black brilliant sister, Bessie Blount Griffin. She passed away on December 30th, 2009 in Newfield, New Jersey. If you don't know what was planned back then, in 2009, when we lost our brilliant black sister, Bessie Blount Griffin, it was Maxwell, Pretty Wings, a beautiful song for a beautiful black sister. If you like what
and it's in a form that's repeatable. If anyone needs the link, all you have to do is click it. There's 2 presentations that I have that are automatic like that. This was one, and there's another one coming up. The key is she did all these things, but because she was a black inventor, and a woman, especially women, were not treated very well as black folks, a lot of the inventions were not accepted here in the United States. But the one with the tube that would allow someone that had no hands, you put the tube in their mouth, they could bite down on it and it would bring food into it. So that's how they could survive. The Veterans Administrator, even though they acknowledged it worked and it was good, said, no, we don't want it. And then a couple other inventions with you saw the cup that she designed. They decided, no, we don't want that either. So the one with the tube that fed people went to France, and France accepted it, and they loved it. The one with the little tube, not the tube, it's like a little cup, that went to Belgium, and they're still using that over there. So even though the U.S. said, nah, we don't want anything to do with it, the other countries said, hey, that's great. Can we get it? And so she said yes. So she did a lot of things, but didn't get much credit here. So we're going to move to the next page. All right, this summarizes a lot of things that you saw in the video. The invention allowed amputees and other injured person to eat without assistance from a nurse. She donated the rights for the self-feeding device to the French government. French put it to use, making much easier for their war veterans. Later, when asked why she gave away the device for free, Blount said she wasn't interested in money. She simply wanted to prove that black women were capable of more than nursing babies and cleaning toilets. This is another picture of the device she designed on the left that she got a patent for. And it took her 3 years to get a patent. I don't know how long a normal person would take to get a patent, but it took her 3 years to get the patent. And I found out that she invested up to $3,000 of her own money to prove that everything worked on a consistent basis, and then got a manufacturer to manufacture it. And said, look, Veterans Administrator, here, all this you can have just for a little bit of money. And they said, no. For a time, Griffin stayed in New Jersey and worked at the Veterans Hospital, but soon she transferred to a hospital in Chicago. Much of her work in both hospitals involved amputees whose soldiers had otherwise lost the use of their limbs. And you'll see someone on the left, she's teaching them how to use their feet to eat and to be able to write. And on the right, when she was told, you can't use your left hand, you have to use your right hand, she said, well, I'm going to use my mouth. So there's an example of her using her mouth to write on the blackboard. So some people you can keep down. Other people, they said, no, I'll just work harder at it. For aesthetic science career, She retired from physical therapy, and I think she retired because she just got tired of everything she was running into. And she decided to go into that's phonetics, and I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, deals with handwriting. This was her second career. She was responsible for translating academic findings of phonetic science into practical guidelines and tools for the officers on the ground. In other words, it's a handwriting expert. Over the course of her career, she became interested in the relation between handwriting and human health. Blount had observed that writing, a fine motor skill, could be affected by different forms of diseases, including dementia and Alzheimer's. Her inquiries into this area led her to publish a groundbreaking paper on medical graphology. Soon she was high demand in this new field. During the 1970s, she assisted police departments across New Jersey and in Norfolk and Portsmouth, Virginia, and even served for a time as a chief examiner. Okay, in 1977, at the age of 63, she became the first African-American woman accepted for advanced studies in the document division of the Metropolitan Police Phonetic Library in London, England, which was Scotland Yard. So I actually put together something I'll pass around that shows that. There's a lot more text on here about it, but this is her with all of the people from Scotland Yard. And I have a letter here that they wrote to her at her address, Bessie, Blount, Atlantic and Westfield Avenue in Newfield, New Jersey, inviting her to a different activity. So there's some people say, well, she didn't really go to England. Yes, she did. And they sent letters back here for, you did a wonderful job. Thank you for helping us. There were a few people that did that. We've covered, in this period of time, a lot of things. So what I did was make a timeline, and I had to put it all in one slide, so I'm not sure how easy it is to read. But this lists all the events from the time she was born and any significant events up to the time that she died in 2009. So if someone needs a hard copy of that, we can run one for you. But she did a lot of work. She was born in 1914. In 1951, she got married, but she also received a patent on the portable receptor support. That's the one with the electronic feeder. 1952, the French government purchased the rights to this device. 1953, she was the first black woman to appear on the television program, The Big Idea, which we're going to cover in a few minutes. And I think I have a different presentation on that. In 1969, she began her second career as a chief examiner for the police departments in Norfolk and Portsmouth, Virginia. 1971, she was the first American woman admitted as a student to the document division, that's Scotland Yard. 1973 to 1983, she maintained a private practice as a consultant to law enforcement and law firms on legal strategy and procedures. That's dealing with the handwriting. 1992, Blount was honored by the American Academy of Physical Therapy and African American Focused Physical Therapy Organization. In 2005, Blount was honored as one of Virginia Women in History. 2007, she was inducted into New Jersey's Cumberland County Black Hall of Fame. She was also honored by the state's Joint Legislative Commendation. This is the second person. This just summarizes things, but here we have a letter directed. It's a commendation from the legislature by Senator Sweeney. Anybody heard of Senator Sweeney? And the General Assembly. And this is the letter that was written and she was given. Okay, she made numerous attempts to interest the VA, the Veterans Administration, in many of her activities, but they were not interested. She earned an affectionate nickname. Oops. Yeah, she earned when she went to England, she was so well respected they gave her a nickname, Mom Bessie. Okay, we're on media appearances. Media appearances is when she was actually on TV. To promote her inventions, she appeared on the WCAU Philadelphia television show, The Big Idea, in 1953. That was talked about earlier. She was the first African-American woman to be on the show as an inventor. No transcript is available. It was reported that she repeated that she had proved a black woman can invent something for the benefit of mankind. So she consistently did things to benefit those that were in need. Blount wrote a featured article for the African-American newspaper, the New Jersey Herald, and the Philadelphia Independent. And we have another presentation at the bottom. I may need technical help to, we'll try it again. Oh, okay. Where is the presentation?
New haircut, new underappreciated person in STEM history. Let's do this. Hey guys, welcome back to the Stimulus. I'm Steph Owens, and welcome to STEM History, the show where I talk about people in STEM that you may not have heard about in history classes, but you probably should have. This week we're talking about Bessie Griffin, also known by her maiden name, Bessie Blount, a black inventor, physical therapist, and forensic scientist that quietly went about changing the lives of amputees while receiving virtually no recognition due to her race. But let's go back to the beginning. Bessie Virginia Blount was born on November 24, 1914 in Hickory, Virginia. Blount began her education at Diggs Chapel Elementary School, a school built by African Americans after the Civil War so that their children would have an opportunity to get an education. During her years in elementary school, it was a common practice for teachers to discourage lefties from writing with their left hands. The teacher would frequently rap on Bessie's knuckles every time she picked up a pencil with her left hand. As a result, Bessie not only taught herself how to write with both hands, but also how to write with her feet and holding a pencil between her teeth. This would actually prove to be an incredibly useful skill later in her life during her work in physical therapy. Unfortunately, after Bessie's family moved to New Jersey, she was unable to continue her education beyond the 6th grade. Due to lack of resources and segregation, black children simply couldn't progress any further than that. But that didn't stop Bessie. She continued her education on her own and went on to earn the equivalent of a GED. After completing her GED, Bessie went on to study physical therapy at Union Junior College and Panzer College of Physical Education. She also traveled to Chicago for additional physical therapy training. Blount wrapped up her education just as World War II was beginning to come to a close, and she immediately volunteered with the Gray Ladies, an organization run by the Red Cross, and began working with amputees from the front lines, helping them learn how to perform basic tasks without the limbs that they had previously relied heavily upon. During this time, she noticed that one of the tasks that proved most challenging for amputees that were missing their hands or their arms was eating, which could be very damaging to their self-esteem and their sense of independence. As a result, in 1951, Bessie invented an electronic device that helped amputees eat by delivering bites of food to the patient at their own pace. In order to receive food, all the patient had to do was bite down on a mouthpiece connected to a rubber tube, and the device would deliver the next mouthful of food. Despite this invention being instrumental to amputees, the American Veterans Administration refused to even allow Bessie to demonstrate her invention, likely due to her being a black woman. As a result, Bessie donated her invention to the French government in 1952. You snooze due to racism and misogyny, you lose. Despite the VA blowing her off, Bessie's invention did receive some of the recognition it deserves. In fact, the American College of Surgeons called it a, quote, most ingenious apparatus. While the American Veterans Administration was ignoring her request to demonstrate her feeding device, Bessie was busy inventing another device to help the physically disabled. She devised a portable receptacle support, which would allow a person to hold something close up to their face like a cup or a bowl by hanging it around the person's neck with a support attachment. In March of 1948, she filed a patent, and the patent was granted in April of 1951. Bessie continued her physical therapy work, at one point working as a physical therapist for Thomas Edison's son Theodore, caring for his mother-in-law. During this time, she befriended Theodore and actually continued her inventing work while she was in his home. She invented the disposable cardboard emesis basin, which is used to catch fluids or debris during such operations as cleaning a wound. Again, the American Veterans Administration refused to accept her invention, so again, another foreign government, Belgium in this case, capitalized on its ignorance, purchasing the design from Bessie. In addition to her inventions, Bessie also began analyzing the connections between physical health and handwriting characteristics while she was working in various hospitals. She noticed that, to some extent, a person's handwriting can reflect that person's overall health. She went on to publish her findings in a paper on medical graphology, or the study of handwriting, as it tied to the medical field. In the late 1960s, Bessie made a career change, becoming a forensic scientist for the Vineland Police Department and the Norfolk Police Department after her paper on medical graphology gained some attention. By the time the mid-70s rolled around, Bessie had become the chief document examiner at the Portsmouth Police Department, and in 1977, after having her application to work at the FBI turned down by Director J. Edgar Hoover, she was invited to train and work at the document division of Scotland Yard in England, making her the first black woman to work there. Bessie continued her career as a forensic scientist into the 1990s, running her own businesses and consulting until she was 83. During this time, she used her expertise in graphology to study slave papers and Civil War documents, and verify the authenticity of documents that contain treaties between Native Americans and the United States. Bessie's lifetime of achievements didn't stop in the sciences. She fought for desegregation of state-supported institutions, wrote many columns for various newspapers covering current events, such as Lyndon B. Johnson's presidential nomination, and even worked in public relations for the NAACP. Bessie Blount Griffin died on December 30th, 2009 at the age of 95. Throughout her life, Bessie Blount Griffin quietly achieved more than most white men and women, with almost none of the recognition due to her race. Even today, while doing research for this video, you can see her image is frequently used for other black female inventors, which serves as a reminder of how careless we as a society have been with the history of black women and how far we have to go to give them the recognition that they deserve. Bessie impacted the lives of countless amputees, many of which served this nation on the front lines of World War II. Time and again, the United States government refused to acknowledge her achievements due to her race and her gender. In 1953, while appearing on the Philadelphia television show The Big Idea, the first of her race and her gender to do so, Bessie stated something that should be common sense. A black woman can invent something for the benefit of humankind. Bessie Blount Griffin certainly proved this statement to be true multiple times throughout her career, and I hope this video helps get her a small portion of the appreciation she is entitled to in the history books. So that does it for this episode of STEM History. If you'd like to learn more about the life and achievements of Bessie Blount Griffin, I will include links to my sources down below, along with links to all of my social media and my Patreon page, so feel free to check that out in your free time. If you know of any amazing STEM historical figures that you think deserve more recognition, leave them in the comment section down below, or send them to me on Twitter at @TheStemulus using the hashtag STEMHistory, and they just might make it into a video. If you like how the STEM History series is going and you don't want to miss out on any of my other STEM related content, feel free to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on any of my future videos. But with that, I hope you all have a
Okay, we're back to honors and awards. And she mentioned one of the honors, which was the Big Idea. She was honored in 1992 by the American Academy of Physical Therapy. She was honored as one of the Women in History in 2005 for Virginia. And 2019, the New York Times published a belated obituary for her as part of Overlook No More. So one of the certificates that she received, I have an example of that on the slide. It's the one for the big idea. Bessie Blount died at her home in Newfield, New Jersey on December 30th. She was 95 years old. So as we've seen in a number of the presentation, she worked up till she was 85 in various positions, but she still did consulting on the side. Now, she's survived by a son, Philip Griffin, who, that son that we've been talking about, he also died. And he had children, Philip, Nicholas, and Aaron Griffin, and a Catherine Warmus, who were great-grandchildren. So there's still a legacy of people. I was trying to find out where the kids are now. I think some of them are in Connecticut. I'm not sure where the rest of them are. She's buried in a cemetery off of Route 45 in Ghoultown. If you go down through Bridgeton on the way to Ghoultown, and you come to a light, there's a Methodist church there. There's a big cemetery on the right. She's buried in there. That's a picture of her headstone. One thing I noticed when I was down there, with all of the things she's done, all the people she's helped, and what have you, there's nothing special about her headstone. No one is doing any special maintenance on it or what have you. And I think it's really a shame. She had wanted to go back to where she went to school, but the schools that she went to at first 6th grades burned to the ground. And now the whole area is grown up. So that's where she wanted to put a museum with all the artifacts and things that she has, but she can't even do that. So she was quite a woman. She did a whole lot. If you ask most people about her, they say, "Who's that?" And you can find a lot of information by Googling her name, but you won't find a lot of things that we brought up here. All right, the legacy. All right, we know about the contributions in the medical and forensic field. Her goal was to help people with disabilities regain their independence and sense of control, and she dedicated basically her whole life to that, other than when she went into the handwriting part of it. She was ruthless in pursuit of her goals. She never allowed detractors and bias to derail her momentum. So even though she had all these difficulties that most people would say, that's too much, I'm just going to give up and later for y'all, she hung right in there. Now, I don't like to present the next slide, but it's part of reality. She returned home in 2008 to Hickory to memorialize significance of the primary school, which had been burned to the ground in 1932. So there's not any records even that the school existed. So when I called down there, do you have pictures of school or any records of the school? And said, no, they're all gone. I said, so I kept digging, and I found the one slide that's up in the front of the school. So it's almost, it doesn't exist. When she went down there to look, that's her son, Philip, next to her. And there's a gentleman who owns the ground down there, and that's the area that the school used to be on. Now that's grown up, they've been burying people in there now, and I don't know. I was going to go down there to Virginia and see what it looks like, but I heard that the whole area is growing up now. Nobody's maintaining it. And it's a shame, really. Her grandson, Aaron Griffin, said Blount never made much money. And you see the building on the right? She actually lived in that building. This is decayed now. It's in Newfield. And when we went into the building, my wife will tell you, we were sitting in the living room part of it, and I saw air conditioning on the wall, and it was summertime, and you could look outside to that. And I looked on the roof, and there was canvas all over the roof, so apparently the roof was leaking. And then she was telling me about all of the wonderful gadgets she has, and we looked in an area, and they were back there. I said, shouldn't they be in a museum or something? He said, yeah, I'm working on that. Well, she died before any of that happened. But if you go to where this was down in Newfield, it's gone now. They've cleared, there was 3 trailers down there.
I know
They,
the area.
they cleared all that out.
And I never knew her.
Yeah,
And I taught school there.
it's all gone now. So you can't even find this anymore. So it's almost like her legacy is being erased. In closing, well, before I close, does anybody have any questions or comments?
What about the Cumberland County
The way,
lands? Can't they take her stuff, or where's her stuff now? Or is
I don't know.
so it is all gone?
It's all gone. She was trying to find a storage place for it, and her son Philip was supposed to make sure it got back to Virginia because he had some connections down there. But I didn't even find out she had died for about 3 months. Then I heard that she had died, and I said, well, when's the funeral? And they said, oh, that was, she wanted a, what do you call it? You go to the cemetery, and they, a grave,
Cemetery, I know the area.
yeah. So she was had a graveside servitor, a graveside burial, and I don't know where he took the things, and he's gone now. So I don't know what happened to all of the things that she had.
Was there a reason that she chose to go by the surname Blount?
Yeah, her grandmother's name was that.
Or rather, did she chose to do that?
She chose, oh, no. No, I don't know why she chose to do that. I don't know what was going on in the family, what the dynamics was, but she chose to go by her grandmother's last name. So you can find more things under Bessie Blount than under Bessie Griffin, even though that was her married name.
Her grandchildren lived in Newfield area? Did they weren't, they're all over the place?
Yeah, somewhere in Connecticut. I'm not sure where the rest of them are. She has grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Buried in Goldtown?
She's buried in Goldtown, right off of Route 49.
I know exactly where that's at.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because we just started a newspaper called the Bridgeton Journal, and I'm very interested in this because Goldtown's a very interesting community by itself.
Yes, it is.
I don't see why they can't bring this into schools. I really don't.
I can't answer that.
I've been out too long teaching and I don't have a connection.
Well,
Because it's right there. I taught in the school right near there. And I never heard of this.
Yeah, there was a lady I was trying to bring with me today who knew her very well and lived in Newtown. Name was Kathy Gregory. But I just got a call before we were coming here. She says, I can't come today. I don't feel well. But she actually knew her because she lived right down the street from where her,
Friends in Newfield.
yes.
Teacher friends, that's another thing.
You know where Truth Baptist in Newfield?
I know, I have some friends, I don't know her,
Okay.
but I do, I have a couple of.
No,
friends.
Truth Baptist is a church down there. And
So New York
there was a New York, yeah, and there's people down there who knew her. And they said they were going to try to send somebody to today's presentation, but the guy that was coordinating that said he had to work today, so he couldn't do it. So I don't know what happened. He'll probably call me next day or so. But
Thank you for doing this presentation. My sister Eva sent me the information last week, and it was late,
Mhm.
but I called former classmates,
mhm.
and I called other therapists. I am a retired physical therapist. I trained in North Jersey, I went to school in North Jersey, and I went back to school in Florida. This is something that was not taught to us in school, and there are many therapists that know nothing about this, so thank you for the work and research that you did.
I even taught New Jersey first, of course, years ago. And her name was not even mentioned as being an inventor under all the inventors that we used to. You're right, because she was black and she was a woman.
You also realize that there are many blacks who have done so much that are not mentioned, they're left out of the history books, you know, and it's not black history, it's history.
I know friends in Vineland, you know, Petways and Stills and Carter, and they've done great things.
Well, what we're trying to do is when we find someone that has done a lot that nobody knows about, we try to research them and present it, so at least the information will be put out.
And if we can find the school where those two kids were, I might be able to find the names, because I taught there. And the ones in Vineland, the two little boys that she went to
Oh.
school in Vineland. If you know what school it is. See, that's another thing that's lost, yeah.
The thing is, who do you ask?
Yes.
Well, we can take the picture, I can blow the picture up so you can read the names underneath, because they're probably 28 or 30 years old by now.
I know, especially at time, because I was teaching at that time.
Okay, in closing, help make the world a better place by using your gifts and talents to be a blessing to others. Believe in yourself. Keep knocking, the door will open. Bessie Blount's achievements were all the more impressive because of the obstacles, bias, and skepticism she faced as a black woman in her profession. But she did not quit. And our pastor had an interesting message today. His topic was, keep your head up, don't give up, which I thought was very interesting. And one of his texts he used was Galatians 6:9, and let us not grow weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. So if the Lord directs you down a certain path, keep on hanging in there, and he'll make a way out of no way. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your research and for sharing that with us. Important material to know. I'd like to mention that we are ongoing with our programs here. 2 weeks from today, on November 3rd, Kevin Hansen from Rowan University's College for Performing Arts will be here to present us with an overview of history of American popular music, which I thought was interesting in the first video, how that presenter linked what was popular at the time with those years. Here's an opportunity to look at that survey for 250 years of what America has been listening to. That lecture begins at 3 o'clock, as always, and will be online and available for viewing after the event. I also want to invite you, if you've not yet been to Last Call, Taverns and Temperance, our exhibition that is ongoing at Old Town Hall Museum in Mullica Hill. This explores the colorful history of taverns, prohibition, bootlegging, temperance, and ultimately the return of alcohol to Harrison Township. Now, after over a century of dryness. It is a fascinating insight into that history. It is open Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4, and continues through the first weekend in December. And, like all our programs, the admission is free. Those of you who are in the audience, may I ask you to complete your evaluations. They are very important to us, not only to help us understand what our audiences are interested in and how well we're doing, but it also supports our continued funding efforts for these programs. I believe there is a QR code online as well for you of you that are viewing this virtually, and you can scan that and share your input with us that way. And with that, we'll close the afternoon with thanks to all of you here and online for joining us at the Richwood Academy Cultural Center. And thank you again, Bob.